Thursday, which seems to be becoming a very popular feature. But really quick, we will line up what we are doing first today, which is that we are doing our Kickstarter campaign for the Pig World TV. And the first thing we needed, and today we're having a little bit of trouble with, watch for it, microphones. So we have now raised our money for microphones, and now we continue to raise money for our equipment and other things. And today we're going to hand this over to Don and Mary. But remember, take a look at it. Pledges for consultations are there. So yeah, if you want to get a consultation with any of us, there are a number of other people. We'll be filling more of that out. But today, so we put out some of the pictures of some of the older items we put out for swag to show you kind of what we're doing. But we are definitely adding a crystal access point because that's the mini shows and it's something that we all do. So if you like swag, there you go. And we want to thank everybody who's already bought the coffee cups and the t-shirts. We're going to be working on them throughout the whole process. But today we're going to talk to you about tarot and all things out there. If you want to make a comment in any one of the chat rooms across the websites or Peggy World TV or Magic TV, let us know and we will offer it to you. And you can also always DM us ahead of time or message us through our Peggy World TV site, any number of places you can find us. And then we could say that. But if you want to talk or ask any question, we can. So, hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
And so I'm going to hand this over to you. And, well, one of the first things that we're not going to do mine right away, but people are saying I should probably get a reading. So maybe towards the end of the show, we'll let you guys read me, which is a rare opportunity to do this. Because obviously tomorrow I'm going to be 60 years old, or I've revolved around the planet in our spiral 60 times. Actually, that's quite an accomplishment, actually. I really do. But so one of the first questions I had somebody ask during the week was people always are asking for their own personal thing, but they're saying they were asking, do you think that? Let me go ahead and let me look at it again.
Hello to Kim in the chat room.
All right. How do you know if what you're reading for people are good or bad? I guess
that's an interesting question. I guess it depends what you mean by good or bad. My way of thinking is that you're doing a reading to gain information, and information is always good. It's what you do with it that perhaps makes it good or bad. It may not be what the person wants, but that doesn't inherently make it bad. I'm assuming that's what the question is asking. If the question is actually asking, how can you tell if you're being accurate or not? Usually the person will tell you. And I was always taught that you should trust that what you're getting is right, and you will find out through experience that it is, and that's what always happened with me. And for me, the easiest reading is where you have a back and forth with the person. But I prefer not to know anything about the situations before I begin. It's much easier, I think, to read for someone you know nothing about than for someone whose situations you're familiar with. For one thing, you have no emotions involved in the situation. But in terms of whether they would consider it good or bad for their desires, I've never really thought of it that way. I've more thought of it as this is what you need to know to go forward.
And I agree with that. And I'll also add that sometimes even when I have read for a specific question, Spirit has said that's not what you need to hear right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what's come through in the reading is talking about a different aspect of their life than what they asked about, whether they told me the question or not.
Mm-hmm. I find that the cards, and even more clairvoyance, will tell the person what they need to know. often even if it's not what they're interested in knowing. It's a bit of a cliche, but I found that it's not uncommon for them to answer the question before it's asked. Because when I do a card reading for a person or a clairvoyant reading, I usually don't start with questions. I start with whatever comes, and then I will take questions. And it's not been unusual for the person to say, well, you've answered the questions.
I usually do not take the question when I'm doing the reading.
Hmm.
I just lay out the cards, we go through them, and then we're discussing it in terms of their situation.
I usually will, at a certain point in the reading, I will ask for questions, but I want to get what the cards are going to say first.
Yes.
And we want to say hello to Diana in the chat room and Asma in the chat room.
So I've got another one, and
Mhm.
it says, "Boy, they're taking a dark turn a little bit tonight." And so we're going to do it. It says, "Would you tell a person if you predicted their death in a reading?" That's a little dark.
Yeah, and I don't personally feel that for the most part, card readings and psychic readings, for the most part, I don't think are the best predictors of death. And the reason I believe that is I think that death is something that is not necessarily decided until it happens. I feel like there are usually different options the soul can take. And so I doubt that I would, I certainly would not say as an absolute, even if I saw it. And one of the stories I used to tell was about my mother and my cousin Gloria. Gloria suffered from lung cancer for 20 years or more. And at the end of her life, she had 1/4 of one lung, but she kept right on going, even though people had thought she would die years before. My mother was in more or less perfect health, and 3 months later, she was dead from cancer. I don't think that it's something that is that easily predicted, particularly if you're not anywhere near it. Now, if someone had a terminal illness and they were asking about death, I think that's a different kind of question. One of the things I've had happen is very young people whose only question is, when will I die? Well, I can't really answer that for you because you're going to find out that there's several points where your soul could exit if it chooses or not. And yes, I might be able to tell you what those points are, but it's still going to be a choice. And that's how I look at the question of death. Oh, well, one of the things I will always remember, there was a famous psychic by the name of Irene Hughes, and I used to work with her in the J&M Psychic Fair circuit. And people either loved or hated her, which I think is true for most very well-known psychics. But one day there had been a pregnant woman who came for a reading, and Irene told her she was going to have a miscarriage. And most of the other readers were scandalized by this because this is not what you do. For one thing, as I was just saying, death is not that easily predicted. And as my friend Novala put it, people will go out and have the problem just to prove you were right sometimes. So you should not tell them catastrophic things like that, because you're increasing the likelihood of its happening. What I was taught to do is that if you see something like that, you should advise the person to be very careful around those circumstances. That there could be things that would happen, not that there would be, because we're magical creatures. we can change what is there. Well, half the point of getting a reading is if you need to change something. And if you've studied magic, you know how to change it. And so absolutes like that can be difficult, although I'm not going to say you could never foretell a person's death. Um, but I think that as a reader, you probably should not, um, as a general rule. And how do you take that?
Um, I agree with you. You know, I have never seen anyone's death when I was reading. So the only thing I could think of would be if circumstances indicated or something in the reading indicated you needed to advise them to make some sort of preparations.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Perhaps around their wills, estate planning.
hmm Well, when my mother was ill, I referred to this a few minutes ago. The best readers I knew predicted that she would survive until they didn't. And I attribute that to the fact that we have choice in these matters, even if we may not be consciously aware of it. And through much of that illness, she had not necessarily decided from her higher self that she was ready to go. But when she did, then it was absolute. But I think the higher self can change its mind right up until the last minute. And Gloria is my example of that. For all the things that should have ended her life, it did not end until she, from her higher self, was ready for it to end. And I think that's how it is. Now, I think some people might be happier if they let go of it a little sooner, because I've seen some people suffer through an awful lot that I would not want to go through. Uh,
Right.
but that's a completely different subject as opposed to reading it. And again, I would say that it's not something I would recommend putting too fine a finish on in a reading.
And I would agree.
What's our next dark question of the evening?
Oh no, so I think you see you have Osama's asking would they get a job in Maria S office next week. I'm not sure what that is. You got some people who are asking questions.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, here you go. Let's do this one. You want to answer that one?
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right. There you go.
I can almost hear the dogs of fate baying in the background.
Oh, do you want to go first or shall I?
Why don't you go first?
All right. So my first card is the Princess of Wands. Wands generally be having a lot to do with our employment. And the princess seems positive. The next card is interesting in this question. We have the Hanged Man, which the Hanged Man denotes generally learning, but you have to make a sacrifice to get it. And then finally, we have the Six of Wands, which is showing cooperation. So I'm going to say in this case, something positive is going to move in your direction, but you're going to have to be committed to learning something, and there's going to be a cost for that learning. So the question might not be so much as will I get the job, but am I willing to put in the work it's going to take to be successful at this job?
And for myself, I have the Ace of Coins. I have the Nine of Wands. And I have the Six of Cups. The Ace of Coins has to do with money and prosperity. The Nine of Wands is waiting. I'm inclined to say that it's not going to move that quickly. The Six of Cups is influence from the past. And let me draw one more to speak a little more to that. Then I've drawn the past. So what I would say is that someone that Asma has known in the past will have an influence on this. I'm guessing that might be Maria, but I don't know. But that someone or something she has known or done in the past is going to influence this. And let me draw one more card for the ultimate outcome. And I've drawn Judgment, so I think the answer may very well be yes, but it's going to take longer than expected, and it will involve things out of the past. So that would be my answer. And we want to say hello to Ryan and hello to Arlene. And Arlene has made the interesting comment that that in answer to the question of when someone is going to die, everyone is going to die. It's just more difficult to predict when, which I think is a very sensible answer. So our next question is from Sedwir. And Sedwir has founded a seminary. They are looking for, let me find the question. They've received their first letter of exemption, and they have a meeting coming up. They want to know if it will be positive. And so let us see what the cards say for that.
All right. So my first card is Strength. So I'm going to read this as you are coming in from a position of strength. You've put in your work. Our next card is the Chariot. So we are seeing movement in this case. And then we have the Seven of Cups, which is generally around your emotions and making choices. So now I'm going to be the one to pull one more card. And I have got the Wheel of Fortune. So I am going to read this as overall positive, but there is something affecting the outcome that could throw it towards the negative. So I'm reading it as go in and make sure you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed.
And let me see what I have for this same question. I have the Six of Lamps. I have the Sun. And I have the Moon, which the sun and Moon are sequential in the tarot, but they came from totally different parts of the deck. Both major arcana. So the Six of Lamps is vision and guidance. So however you seek guidance, I would seek guidance. Work with your spirit allies, your patron deities, whatever is your method of choice. But the sun is success. And the moon to me is religion and ritual and um, well-defined spiritual understanding, which of course is the very heart of the question. So I'm inclined to say, that for me it looks good, but there is a need for some reason for spiritual guidance. So I would, and I would always agree that you should make sure that you have crossed your T's and dotted your I's. And my old friend Pete Pathfinder would probably also say, wear a tweed jacket, you'll be happier. Now, Pete was the president of the Washington State Interfaith Council. But when he first joined the council, he found that there were people in the pagan community who opposed his being on it, despite the fact that they had nothing to do with the council themselves. And he was not at all sure they weren't going to be able to convince the council not to let him on. And he was very nervous, very worried about this right up until the day of the meeting. And he came in, and they came in, and they were dressed very flamboyantly, and they behaved very flamboyantly. And he said that he looked at the council members. They were looking at this group of people, and then looking at him in his tweed jacket. And then they looked at this group of people, and they looked at him in his tweed jacket as the conversation's going forward. And he knew right away they were going to let him on. And they did, because he made the expected presentation. And things like that do help.
And you are welcome.
Yes, indeed. And may it go beautifully.
And I don't see any other questions right now.
They may
Alrighty.
come.
So, okay, this is my birthday coming up.
Yes.
So tomorrow, and it'll be interesting. And I want to thank everybody first again.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Dana Fraser with quite a question. I don't know. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Well, so why don't you go ahead and deal with that? That was quite a question. Do you want to even deal with that? But we'll see. Here we go. You want me to read it?
No, I'll paraphrase it.
Okay.
Diana is saying that her family, or at least many people in her family, are toxic in their behaviors, that she is finding it necessary to cut off contact with at least some of them. And she would like to know what guidance we can give her in terms of finding a place to live, I think. And perhaps in general. And I would say that, if they're being toxic, you should, in fact, cut off contact. It's not going to get better. And I think it would probably be the better choice, but that's not psychic. That's just opinion. So let me draw a couple of cards for you. And what mindset or guidance for your landing a dwelling? And our first card is the Two of Wands. Our second card, the Two of Lamps. And our third card is the Seven of Swords. And again, I'm drawing these from all over in the deck. Oh, and I have misread. It's the Ten of Wands. So, but again, they're coming from all over in the deck. Two of Lamps, Ten of Wands, Seven of Swords. So what mindset and what guidance? The Ten of Wands is waiting for a situation to blow over or to end. In this case, the woman in the picture is waiting for her life to end, having completed everything that she can do. It is a situation almost ready to change. So the first thing I'd say is be patient and take your time. Seven of Swords says that it will be difficult, but you can absolutely do it. And the Two of Lamps is probably the most specific guidance that I'm seeing, which is make a choice of what you want and tell the universe. Choose something you believe you can have, but tell the universe, this is what I want, and then have your eyes open for it. And I think you'll find that helps. And let me draw another card. And I've drawn the Wheel of Fortune. To me, the Wheel of Fortune is getting help from fate. And so I think that if you speak to the universe, you tell the universe what you want for a dwelling, I think that you will find it will come more easily. I think you're still going to have some patience in finding it, but I think that you certainly will. Let me draw one last card because I can't help myself. And it's the Ten of Coins, and the Ten of Coins is basically happy family, happy home. So I think you will have a good result to this. And my advice again is patience and speaking to spirit about what you actually want, not necessarily what you would settle for, but what you want.
All right. Yeah. So, my first card is the Four of Cups, and this is around your emotions in the situation. So, with the Four of Cups, you need to be clear on what you want, and you also need to consider who your allies might be. Next, we have the Ace of Swords. And swords are about movement and air, intelligence, learning. It's the ace. So I'm going to say, consider your situation here. And what are you supposed to learn from it, and how can you apply what you know to it? And finally, we have the Prince of Pentacles, Pentacles being around our physical resources. So resources are coming, but I agree with Lord Don, you've got to put some spiritual work into bringing them. And whatever you do it, be positive about it at all times. Don't let negative self-talk defeat whatever you do to manifest this for yourself.
Very good.
That's great. So we'll see out there. So everybody, it's been kind of interesting all week. So remember, Witch Stars. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we really do want to see ourselves do great. So
You're very
and one of
welcome, Diana.
and
You are welcome.
there you go. And one of the things you can do is you can get a consultation. A pledge of $125, you get our great swag bag, some great gifts, and you can also get a consultation with a number of major people, including Don, Reverend Mary here, and there will be a lot of people. So consider taking a consultation membership pledge.
And
Okay.
we have a question about how do you pick a tarot deck from Sylvia, and she goes on to add, if I just don't like the Art, I don't connect with it. And thank you for pledging at the vendor level. We really
Yes, indeed.
appreciate it. And Sylvia, I agree with you. If I can't connect to the art, if the imagery of the deck is not speaking to me, I can't work with the deck. It's got to speak to me, and I read based off the images as much as whatever the stated meaning of the card is. I'm looking at the images, I'm listening to spirit when I read. As far as how do I pick a tarot deck? Well, they call to me. I don't have a better answer. I've told this story here before, but my very first tarot deck literally pulled me off the interstate. I was taking my daughter to the mall. We were going to have dinner and go see a movie, and I get off one exit sooner, and she says, "Hey, Mom, this is the wrong exit." I said, "Oh, yeah." And then I see Barnes and Nobles, and I said, "I've got to run in here right quick." And that was when I found my first deck.
Very good.
So, and how would you answer that, Lord Don?
Well, at this point in my life, I don't really select decks. I design them, and I make them as I desire them to be. However, if I were attracted to the artwork, I would probably be interested in the deck. At one time, I had a large collection based almost exclusively on the artwork. I'm an artist. I'm very visual. That would be the thing that would do it for me. And I like the variety of tarot decks, but the likelihood of my actually buying one is relatively low at this point because I make them. And how many tarot decks can you use? And Diana remarks that her guides today said, "Why are you attempting to formulate a query when you are making your way?" And that is always the best answer for a magical person. It's all well and good to have someone read what may be there, but remember you are making what you are doing because you are a magical person.
Yes. Whatever comes up in the cards is advice. It is not a foretelling set in stone. It is advice around the situation. And if you're not happy with what it's saying about the situation, you have the power to change the situation.
Hmm. I think there are some things that are easier to change than others, of course, but I do think you could
Definitely.
change virtually anything, unless your higher self is just absolutely dead set that it must be that way. But I don't know that's really often the case. So it's there for guidance.
So, alrighty, folks. So that's been. I don't like that one. There we go. That's better.
Okay.
Well, folks, I guess that's a good amount. We've done it again. So, any last thoughts before we go for the evening?
Support us at witchstarter.com. Help fund Pagan World TV's second season and help us upgrade our equipment.
And
Give
thank you
Ed a
everyone for
birthday
watching.
present.
That's it.
Yes, indeed.
All right, then, folks. Don, why don't you close us with a prayer then today?
Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to help us to see clearly the desires of our higher selves and what lies before us in life. Help us to navigate surely and with confidence the roads that lie before us, and bring us safely to good harbors. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, with love and with respect, we thank you, and may you blessed be. And may you blessed be until next time.
Blessed be.